The church bells tolled in a slow, heavy rhythm, each strike echoing across the cold morning sky. The scent of lilies filled the air, mixing with the quiet sobs of mourners. My beloved wife, Margaret, lay in her coffin, her face serene, almost glowing in eternal peace. We had been married for over 45 years. She had been my anchor, my companion, my confidant, and losing her felt like someone had cut out the heart from my chest. But amid the grief, my eyes caught something peculiar. At the far corner of the church, sitting in her black dress, was my daughter-in-law, Sophia. Unlike everyone else, her lips curled not with sorrow, but with a faint, smug smile. She whispered something into her phone, smirking, her eyes occasionally darting toward me. It wasn't sorrow I saw in her, it was relief. Perhaps even joy. You see, Margaret had never been fond of Sophia. My wife always said, "Edward, that woman doesn't love our son. She loves his money and she's waiting for us to be gone." I used to dismiss it as paranoia. But that morning, when I saw Sophia's barely hidden delight at my wife's funeral, I realized Margaret had been right all along. My son David sat beside her, pale and broken, his hand trembling as he clutched hers. But she was almost glowing, as if the end of my wife was the beginning of her freedom. I stayed silent. I didn't confront her, not yet. Because what Sophia didn't know was that Margaret and I had prepared for this moment long ago. After the funeral, everyone gathered at my house. It was time to read the will. The atmosphere was heavy. My daughter Clara sat close to me, her eyes red from weeping, while David kept looking down at his shoes, lost in guilt and sorrow. Sophia, however, sat upright, her posture proud, her chin lifted high, her hand resting arrogantly on David's knee, as though she had already claimed ownership of everything we had. The lawyer, Mr. Harris, cleared his throat and began reading. Margaret Thompson's last will and testament. Sophia's eyes gleamed. I could almost hear the wheels turning in her head. She was probably thinking of the house, the land, the savings, everything she believed would soon be hers. The will started with the usual sentiments. Margaret's words of love for her children, her hopes for their futures, her prayers for their happiness. Clara sobbed quietly. David swallowed hard. Then came the distribution. To my beloved daughter Clara, I leave my jewelry collection, family heirlooms, and the cottage in the countryside, where I hope she will always find peace. Clara gasped, covering her mouth. She hadn't expected so much. To my son David, I leave the bookstore that has been in our family for generations. May it remind him of the value of knowledge and hard work. David nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. And then Mr. Harris paused. The room grew tense. Sophia leaned forward, her hands gripping the chair's arms, a victorious smile tugging at her lips. And finally, the lawyer continued, the rest of our estate, including the house, the bank accounts, and all remaining assets, shall be transferred to our grandchildren, placed in a trust fund that will be released to them upon adulthood. Until then, the estate shall be overseen by Edward Thompson, my beloved husband, who alone shall control its distribution. The room went silent. David looked shocked. Clara looked relieved. I sat there, calm and quiet. But Sophia, her face drained of color. Her smile vanished. She opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. She looked from the lawyer to David, then to me, as if waiting for someone to say it was a mistake. Mr. Harris folded the papers neatly. That concludes the reading of the will. Sophia slammed her hand on the table. This is ridiculous. She can't just leave everything away like that. I'm his wife. You deserve nothing. I cut her off, my voice sharp, cold. For the first time that day, all eyes turned to me. I leaned forward, staring directly into her eyes. Margaret saw through you long before I did. She knew your love was hollow, that you were waiting for her to die so you could feast on what we built. Well, she's gone. But she made sure you would never touch a single penny. Her face twisted in rage and humiliation. David tried to calm her down, but she yanked her arm away. This is unfair. I'm part of this family. She screamed. No, I said quietly. You only ever pretended to be. And with that, she broke. Tears welled up in her eyes. Not of grief for my wife, but of fury, of helplessness, of shattered greed. She had rejoiced at my wife's funeral, believing she had won. But when the will was read, she realized she had lost everything, and that, Margaret's final gift to me, was the sweetest revenge.